Listen, I told you Iran would not collapse. Not because I understand politics better than anyone else. Not because I had secret information. Not because this is prophecy. This is not news commentary. This is not politics. This is the Hebrew code moving through reality. On January 29th, before this moment became visible to the eye, I published a video connected to the root of the word Persia. The word did not show collapse. It did not show conquest. It did not show something being broken from the outside. It showed something else. Loosening, softening, a loss of internal tension, something more like a spring slowly unwinding. And that is the difference. Iran will not be defeated from the outside. It will lose tension from within. That is not my opinion. That is the movement inside the word. And now, weeks after the fighting between Iran, Israel, and the United States, I can enjoy the words everyone loves to say, I told you. But, humor aside, the code is alive, relevant, and precise. Sometimes thoughts pass through me. What would the world look like if those who move nations knew how to read the code? What would the world look like? How many fighters would still be above the ground? But the code taught me that timing is everything, and the twisted, cursed human journey has a purpose, and we have to pass through it. Since then, I have been sharing what I managed to decode here on this channel, without expectations, without trying to convince, without selling you anything, and without promising anything. This is a journey for whoever it calls to enter with me, inward, and observe. It is like going to an avant-garde film festival in Iceland. It is for the few, not for the many. It is for those who are able to grasp that it cannot be grasped, and that every tilt to the right or to the left, every expression of opinion, every identification with one side or another, no matter how moral, enlightened, or sophisticated that opinion may seem, the very existence of it is ignorance. And so, while most of us are educated, we fail to understand the code. Until now, I have uploaded to this channel only videos in which everything I say is reflected on the screen through letters and words. And that is still what most of my time is dedicated to even now. But after a lot of thought, I decided to start recording this series too, this podcast, because there is no chance that subjects from our daily reality, which may demonstrate the relevance of the code better than anything else, can be fully shown through one code word video when they require a large vocabulary of words that I cannot possibly prepare all at once. So I decided to give this a try. I believe that the few viewers who already follow the channel and already feel comfortable with the concept will begin to connect the words to the subjects. Many of the words are already on the channel in different videos, short or long. I want to emphasize that everything said here comes from the code, from the Hebrew words and letters, connected to Aramaic, Arabic, and other ancient Semitic languages. And all of them echo back through all languages, through sound, folk stories, ancient writings, and oral traditions. We will begin with Iran, and we will arrive in Lebanon, where all eyes need to be on. The code is built from the connection of letters. Each letter is a living force, a moving force, active inside reality. Every connection to another letter is like a blowing wind. It can affect the direction. It can affect the movement inside reality. And so, just by looking simply at the letters that make up the word Paras, Persia, we can begin to understand the connections the letters create, even when we move them from side to side, and when we begin to grasp that the letters and the words they form echo one another. Suddenly, the connection between Persia and Lebanon begins to become clear. Each letter is like a pixel connected to another letter, and every word creates a resonance chamber. But to read the pixels as a single picture, we have to know how to break them apart and put them back together. That is how the code is built. This is not an act of magic. This is something basic in creation. Everything is built from resistance, from tension between opposites. And so every word receives forces that describe movement, as well as forces that act within reality. I am not reading nations as nations. I am reading them as forces inside the code. This is the meaning of the verse. The voice is the voice of Jacob, and the hands are the hands of Esau. What we call Christianity versus Judaism out of ignorance is actually one of the most important verses in the Torah, a verse that explains the connection between heaven and earth and how that connection receives a body. How does it become physical inside reality? The same idea appears in the word Yehudah, Judah, and in the symbol of the lion. Yehudi, Jew, as an echoing force, and Yehudah, Judah, as a force acting inside reality. Again, I am not speaking about people as identity. I am speaking about forces embodied through names, nations, and stories. And so, throughout history, for those who read the Torah literally, it was hard to understand how this people called Judah could be led to slaughter like a flock of sheep, again and again. And now, once this flock of sheep received territory, how did it suddenly become a pride of lions? The code explains this through the letters that connect the word. Christian opens another layer of this mechanism, but that belongs to a separate video. I return to the letters that make up the word Pe Ras, Persia. The letter Pe is connected to the mouth, to speech, to eating, to digestion. The letter Resh is connected to the head. Together, these two letters create the word parable. Even the idea of the alpha points backward to what stands before creation. But creation itself begins with the second letter, with division, with duality, the foundation of all physical creation. This is the primal part that exists inside all of us. Two basic actions moving from the mouth to the head and from the head back to the mouth. And then comes the letter. Mek, the letter of danger and also of proximity, of something existing close to something else, the letter of a system of spinning, a system of circular motion that exists inside the human being, where the bull either chews its grass peacefully or goes out into attack without asking permission. The human animal, us, because we received a bonus letter, the letter that creates all the circles inside our head, the circles that come back out through the mouth and create our twisted reality. This is not a random operating system. It is coded inside the word. Paras, Persia, shows the spin. Von, Lebanon, opens the whiteness. Yisrael, Israel, points to the straightening. Samek is the circle, the twist, the human brain. Yisrael, Israel, is the mechanism, or the path that has to stop the spin and straighten everything. People in reality embody roles that are already written inside the code. So when we look at the person, the persona, the public figure, and try to understand the story through them, we are reading it backwards. The code comes first, the figure comes after. The person does not create the code. The person is chosen by the code to embody it. This is encoded in the third letter, Gimel, and it is also encoded in the desert animal. the camel. It is a code for the journey of humanity, for the process of weaning from the addiction to speech, and for a new age of quieting and learning how to listen. But we are still very far from it. We are still inside one of the 40 circles in the desert. The journey is the untying of the Torah stories after endless rotations. And this is the role of the white man in the world. And again, white is not skin color. White is a force operating inside reality. Now I will try to explain the connection between what is happening exactly now and the code. I hope you understood that I am not speaking about people, countries, or political moves as if they determine reality. They have no power at all. They embody what is already coded, exactly like casting actors in a film. It could have been anyone, but they are the ones who were chosen. I do not want to spend a lot of time choosing words that will soften what I am saying. I prefer to spend that time explaining the code more deeply. So after the war, with the great promise of the United States, with Trump standing at its head, and Israel with Bibi standing at its head, Iran is not only still standing, it is even strengthened, encouraged. This is a temporary state. Just as there is a descent for the sake of ascent, the opposite is also true. The ground has been prepared for Iran to collapse from within. When the collapse appears in reality, it will be a sign of a wider movement that has reached its end. Or actually, two movements. One is the movement of the white man, the one who does, who acts inside reality, who builds the world, who believes he can do it alone. These are the same forces that built the Tower of Babel and the religion called Christianity and turned churches into brides of God. Without going into details, this is an idea whose source is in a moment in time before the split between what is called Judaism and Christianity. It is a distortion of the code that began with those who wanted to rewrite the Torah and invented the Bible, the Talmud, the Gemara, Kabbalah, and so on. This is part of the journey. Nothing happens outside the code. The figure of Laban the Aramean is a code for the deceitful white one, the original narcissist, a force that wants to build a world above the head, supposedly, of God. The word white holds the entire process of this force, from its supremacy to its collapse, and then the process of so-called repentance, the process of purification. And because this is not about a person, a figure, or a group of people, everything returns again to the code. White is the force entrusted with clarifying the text. It begins through manipulations, human thoughts, magnificent philosophies, science, technology, education. This is part of the tree of knowledge's original journey, until it reaches its end in surrender, and admits there is only one God, one truth, one knowing, one code, one unified field. To understand the entire movement, we have to understand the number 0, the difference between the two kinds of suns. The Ben. The fallen son of the earthly realm is described in Aramaic as a fish in water, and the bar, the pure, the outside, the wild one, and also the bull that we already spoke about a little. All these words together draw a picture of the role of the white man. And Lebanon assembles all these movements together. It is the geographical embodiment of the whole process. To this day, I still remember the stories of my father, who visited Lebanon and later fought there. The pain he carried with him, even as an Israeli and a Jew. from the little Switzerland of the Middle East to a ruined land. The place carries the whole movement. But as I already said, there's another part of purification. And Lebanon will return to being bright with snow and light once the movement is complete. And how is it connected to Iran? Iran is the force that sought to turn what the code calls Persia. And that, too, is a movement of the collapse of human monarchy. So Trump, the one who crowned himself king, together with Bibi, find themselves naked, without a crown, without a regal cloak, and without a magic wand. This is separate from their personalities, but they are a wonderful choice to represent this force inside reality. Iran is connected to Aryan, the white force. Yes, the same one Hitler tried to hold on to. The force of white supremacy. The force of the human being who believes he can rule the world. Persia tells the role as it was determined, not as we interpret it. In 3 letters, it explains the end of the age of stories, parables, and tales, and the transition with the help of AI into numbers and algorithms. Look around, it is happening right now. This is the real weakening, not of Iran as a country, but of a system that stared inside reality from King Ahasuerus, known historically as Xerxes, to Hollywood, in which the human being became the center, the power, the celebrity. Everything will turn to dust, not as punishment, but as part of the process. The signs were there all along. The perception that Jews control the media is, again, the ignorance that comes from not knowing the code. The word Jew is the echo of the movement inside reality. And so Hollywood in America, Bollywood in India, and Egypt, all of them are always connected in one way or another to Jewish communities. The word Jew is also connected to India. And Vice President Vance represents the force of the weight that is now moving from the echoing representation in the Middle East toward India itself, toward the ancient East. What looks like strategy for the next election was written in the code long ago, and now it is being carried out. We are moving forward in the story toward China and India, toward the forces that hold the doing, the hands of Esau, and the voice of Jacob. And so, the journey inside the words keeps projecting outward and building reality. Every appearance is explained through the words. There is not one thing that does not already exist inside the code. We are now in very special times, especially now, when the code is opening. And even though everything around us looks more confused, more twisted, and more spun than ever, exactly at the hour when reality begins to look unreal, the code is here to guard us, like a landing base in the middle of the sea, a place we can always return to. In short, I will say this again, not as prophecy, only from the work with the code. Stormy days are ahead of us. Much blood will be spilled, the crossing of the desert, and the weaning of the human species will be almost unbearable. But the end is always good, and it is coded inside the word black. Black is the liberation of spirit from matter, the dissolving of the physical world. Islam is indeed the religion of peace, because it settles all debts, it cuts off all heads, and teaches us an important lesson about death. Death is not separate from life. It is the other side of the coin. So I will stop here. Not because the movement is complete. It is not. The work is never complete. Reality does not wait until I finish editing. And the code does not open all at once. It opens word by word, letter by letter, force by force. If this sounds impossible, go back to the channel. Look for the words themselves. Persia, Lebanon, white, black, Israel, the bull, the circle, the straight line. The words are already there. Some are open, some are still waiting. This podcast is where I will begin to connect them to what is moving now. Not as news, not as politics, not as prophecy, as code. The people are not the source. The nations are not the source. The story does not begin with the faces on the screen. The word comes first. The code comes first. And reality follows. It's in the words.